Hello, Friday. All right, good to see you all here in the veteran group. For those of us fortunate enough to even know what veteran readiness and employment happens to be, I am your host, Benjamin Krause, VA accredited attorney, veteran rights advocate, all those fun things. We're going to be talking today about veteran readiness and employment and some of the things that veterans wish they had known when they first started using the program. Now, as some of you know, because you've seen me do this before, I'm going to jump into the comment section real quick and let folks know that we are live. We are live talking about VR&E questions. There we go. Okay, now everyone knows. Okay, so we're here. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what veterans in our group provided feedback on when asked what they wish they would have known when they first came to VR&E. Now, these aren't necessarily my answers or things that I feel are the number one thing. This is really just a list that I compiled of what fellow veterans had reached out to us about and talked about within the group. So I wanted to take time to, first of all, thank you to everybody who gave feedback, because that's awesome. Woo, thumbs up. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to read my question and then to give us feedback right away about what was happening. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And it also helps anyone watching this and people in the group basically, get to their own conclusions about how best to use veteran readiness and employment for themselves. So I'm really pleased that we're all, hey there, good to see you. So just so anyone watching this, just be aware, thanks, Abe, just be aware that if you're commenting in the Facebook group, I may not see your name. If you're commenting in the normal Facebook side on the page, I will probably see your name. If you're commenting from YouTube, I will probably see your name again. Hey, Kim, good to see you. And if you're commenting from YouTube, I'll see you there. LinkedIn, not as much. So for whatever reason, the LinkedIn system over at Microsoft does not want to or allow me to communicate in the same way that I would love to, but I will do what I can. So, hey, Bridget, good to see you. By the way, I love your photograph of the gray hair. I think it's stunning. I don't know if anyone watching this, if you happen to know who Bridget is, she's just updated her photograph recently, and she's got this amazing gray hair. Just looks fabulous. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. So to any of you watching this. Anyway, so today what we're going to talk about is things that basically veterans wish that VR&E would have told them, or they wish they would have known when they went into the program. Now, I have my own list of things just historically that I've seen, but I wanted to take time instead today to talk about what veterans are feeling now, and to give a voice to that on this platform. So that's a big chunk of what we try to do here, because as many of you know, we as veterans sometimes are forgotten, at least our day-to-day voice, and are instead represented mainly by bigger interests within Capitol Hill and at the VA and some of these bigger corporations that provide representations about what they think that we are concerned about. And so, this is our chance to at least tell them if they're listening or if they're watching or whatever happens at some point, whether on YouTube or anywhere else. This is what veterans wish that VRE would have done at the beginning. These are, things that veterans feel were maybe secret or with information withheld from them. So we're going to talk about that. Now, before I get into that, I want all of you to be aware, watching this off of Facebook, that we have the largest veteran readiness and employment centric Facebook group, probably the largest group that I'm aware of online, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or wherever else, talking about veteran readiness and employment. So if you happen to go below the toward the comment section below this on YouTube or in LinkedIn, you should be able to see a link to this Facebook group. I encourage you, if you're watching this, to go check it out. We have a lot of free and easy to access resources that are talked about in that group. and it's private. So you can only get there by requesting to join. To put in that request, you have to answer our questions. That's super important. Otherwise, we don't know how to get a hold of you and all that stuff. So be sure to fill that out. I do look at those. So if you think that I don't, I do frequently deny people who are requesting to get in but don't answer any of the questions. So I just want you to be aware. I do look at them. Personally, it's me. So you have an attorney looking it over to make sure that you answered the questions. So I do look at it. So I hope you answer the questions so I can let you into the group. Having said all that, a couple other things. So veterans that are running into issues with VR&E, if you get denied or whatever, you can reach out to my law firm and actually talk to us about your denial. I don't charge for that. So we give free consults to veterans. That doesn't mean that I'm going to represent you, but you can reach out to us. We'll do our best to give you feedback if able to about it, which may be better feedback than you get in a forum or on Reddit or something like that. Just food for thought. So you actually get, a law firm to look at your decision and to give you feedback on it. And that's not something we charge for. So food for thought. My URL is, there it is. Right there. Okay. So you can reach out to us there if you want. And then aside from that, we are, just happy to help if we can. And then otherwise, now we're going to get into the group, the stuff. So the nitty gritty here. Now, one veteran, I thought this was a super interesting, and one veteran mentioned aptitude testing. And hey, Rob, good to see you, buddy. I owe you a phone call, and don't think I don't remember that. We've had some, busy kids, so I apologize. But I will get a hold of you soon, man. I owe you a call for sure. And so having said that, we had this thing come up about aptitude testing. So some veterans were like, one veteran in particular commented that he had wished that there was aptitude testing before the first appointment. And another person responded, well, we don't do that. I'm assuming this person's like a new counselor or something like that. So they responded, hey, we don't do that until after the first appointment. Well, that's not exactly accurate. A couple reasons why it's actually really not a good idea. So in order for a veteran to be evaluated for whether they have an employment handicap, VA first needs to address whether they are qualified for suitable employment. You can't really get at that unless they have a aptitude and interest battery has been performed. It's part of the requirements of the development at the front end. And so an aptitude test really should be done before the first appointment. That doesn't mean that it's always done, but they definitely should be done. I just want to point that out. So I know some counselors maybe don't think that that's necessary. That's incorrect. It should be done as part of the assessment because you can't truly evaluate a veteran for suitable employment without knowing their aptitudes and interests, because that's part of what makes suitable employment suitable, is knowing what that is. So I just want to point that out. At least that's my take on it. So I feel like that's important. So anyway, and I think it's necessary in order to do that type of development. So food for thought. Now, another veteran wrote in something else, and I think this was actually a counselor in the group who mentioned that a lot of veterans believe they can be approved for VR&E within up to 2 months after their first application. The veterans get, upset about it taking longer than 2 months. And from her perspective, it should be greater than what do you call it? Like 2 months, but up to like 6 months really to get approved. And I just want to point out that a 6 month approval timeline to those in the program, most veterans don't have 6 months to get the ball rolling, and they really need VR&E to move faster. Does it truly take VR&E that long to at least get somebody approved for benefits and services? No. Does it take that long to get them approved maybe at the school to get into the school? Yeah, that could take an extra 4 months. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarity on that because it could be going around. It'd be great to have VR&E, get more information to veterans about that process. so they have reasonable expectations before they apply. Just, something to think about for the counselors that are maybe watching this. I know some of you are out there, and I appreciate it, and hope that more of you do tune in so that we can talk more about how these benefits really work and don't work, and some of the problems veterans are experiencing when it comes to that. So anyway, having said that, we're going to get into the list. So, one veteran wished that they knew, and they feel like this is a secret, essentially, or at least withheld from us, right, is the VRC's credentials and years of service. So that would tell us if they're new or if they're, been there a while, that type of thing. Now, some of the research that supports that this may be an issue is that VRE did their own survey of VRE, vocational rehabilitation counselors. And what they found is that new counselors are less likely than counselors that have been there for up to 10 years, a lot less likely to approve somebody for an MBA. I want to say it was up to 25%. And the number that would approve that had been at the agency for, up to 10 years, 8 to 10 years, I think it was, were like 5% or less. It was a very small amount. So a pretty significant difference. Want to point that out. So when it comes to credentials matter. And I could also see that a lot of veterans would just appreciate knowing the background of the person that's approving them. And they should know, right? Because credentials matter. And if that person is functioning as an expert, which they are, on vocational matters, then a veteran should deserve or have the opportunity to know how their credentialing and their experience, because that's relevant to the weight that should be afforded to that expert's opinion. That would be a normal thing that would occur in court. It should be a normal thing that a veteran is afforded. Also, the credentials of, like, for disability compensation, potentially being afforded their credentialing or their knowledge of the background of and the experience of the person who's evaluating them for disability compensation benefits. So I think all around, anytime a person is functioning as an expert in any case, a veteran should be privy to their CV. I think that should be something that the VA provides. Greater transparency. I talked with somebody today at great length about the need for greater transparency and accountability within VR&E, and that the lack of which, especially transparency, but also accountability of VA employees, is likely part of why we have so many problems and variability within veteran readiness and employment, a lack of predictability. So I want to point that out. Now, anyway, so the number one that a person put in here, and this is not in order of importance, but more in an order that I wrote it down from the list that the veterans provided. So first was credentials, years of service, training, things like that. That's number one. Right now, it's essentially a secret. Veterans don't get to know that information unless they do a lot of snooping, and even then, you may not find out if the person doesn't have a LinkedIn profile. So, that should be something that we know as veterans. We should be allowed to know what the expert's, background is as far as training and credentialing. Number two is an exact step-by-step process for the program. And I can tell you, as a VA accredited attorney who has done a lot of appeals of these cases, right? Through the court, on down, on the way back up to the court, you name it. So I've seen these from all different angles over the, quite a number of years here. So I've been an attorney for 10 years. I've been helping veterans as an advocate for even longer and writing about these issues for 13, 14 years now. So a very long time. Created this Facebook group back in 2009. So a very long time before I even, realized I would be approved to become an attorney through veteran readiness and employment. So I've seen this from a lot of perspectives, and I can tell you that the information that veterans receive on the front end is insufficient. A veteran is not on proper notice, in my opinion, as an attorney, proper notice that they're undergoing a forensic examination when they first see a veteran readiness and employment counselor. We don't know that. So when we're going into that appointment, we think that the counselor is part of the name. And so we put our guard down. We talk about things like they're our buddy, stuff like that, which you should never do. This is a forensic exam. And so in many ways, you should treat this as such and be extremely formal and be deliberate with what you're talking about. Don't be loose in the lips. You have to go into this, be prepared. A forensic exam is not dissimilar to what you might do in a deposition or any other kind of thing when you're on notice that whatever you're doing can and maybe and will be used against you, at least at the agency, potentially in court, because you're creating a federal record through your testimony. Most veterans have no idea. So we go in there and we're careless with our words, sometimes not real precise, not, kind of thinking that we can just fuddle around and that the counselor is going to just help you pull a rabbit out of a hat. It's not how it works. So most counselors are there, all of them, in fact, when you're doing this forensic exam, and they're there with the intent of getting information from you to create a legal document for the purpose of a legal adjudication. And I think if a lot of veterans were aware of that, they would be more formal in how they talk, and they would be more precise and less, I don't want to say lazy, but just less careless with how they're explaining their circumstances. They would be more careful and potentially more prepared, right? And they would go in there knowing what they're talking about, being ready and aware that the person's creating a forensic record of you as a person, and then using that in turn to adjudicate whether you're going to be entitled to veteran readiness and employment benefits. A lot of us are just not that, we just don't know. So we're going in there, we're thinking we're talking to our buddy counselor about our buddy experience and tend to be careless with how we speak. It would be really important for veterans to know and to consent, because that's the other component of this, to a forensic exam, because most veterans don't know that that's what's happening, and they're just kind of caught off guard. It's really unfortunate. I think if it was more formalized and more information were upfront about that, then it would result in more accurate information being conveyed and then cataloged for this adjudication. I think it would dramatically reduce instances of wrongful denials, right? So I think that that's something the agency is complicit in, because they're aware that that's a big problem and they haven't fixed it yet. So shame on you, VA. You've been aware of this problem for over a decade, if not longer, and you haven't fixed it. So shame on you. You guys know it's a problem and you're not taking appropriate steps to mitigate that, even though you have an enormous budget of $250 billion a year, where you could easily fix the issue, but don't. Okay? You don't fix it. So now you're on notice again that, your information needs to be better. So, so that comment goes back to, number 2 on our list, which is exact step-by-step process for the program. It'd be great to know this up front so the veteran can create and give a timeline, which would also be useful. So that'd be great. Now, number 3, the other secret is the chain of command. Now, a lot of counselors actually keep this secret. They don't tell veterans. When veterans ask, who's your boss? How do I get a hold of your boss? I don't agree with how you're treating me. You're treating me in a disrespectful manner or something like that. The counselor will not give that information out. They will knowingly withhold that information, which is key information. And again, a lot of these problems with the government in general, whether it's part of our, intelligence apparatus or the VA or anyone else, a lot of these things shouldn't be secret, but are. And I think our government would do a lot of good across the board if some of the stuff that really shouldn't be secret is not secret anymore. And I know there's a lot of arguments about why we want to keep all this stuff secret, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of it is garbage, and a lot of it has these genesis from these fraudulent cases that came out of the 50s that developed our national security secrecy apparatus. If you want to get into some of those cases, I'm happy to talk about it sometime. But, the government has gotten the benefit of the doubt for quite a long time from the court systems, and I think that we got to call them, as attorneys and as judges, call the federal agencies on the carpet for some of this excessive secrecy, especially when it is predicated on false and fraudulent arguments and malicious prosecutions. So just going to leave it there. But anyway, so having said that, chain of command, we don't need to be so secret about that stuff. The federal government, these are servants. They're working for the betterment of the people, not the other way around. And far too long at the agency, they do exist. They do act like at times some of these folks as if that they exist we exist for their pleasure, not the other way around. And the reality is, they work for us as the American people, and they are there to do us a service. And if they're not going to do it, they should get out of the way and let other people do it. So that's my 2 cents as far as that goes. But shouldn't be secretive about the chain of command within VR&E. We also shouldn't be secretive, so that would include at the regional office. It should also include at the Office of Field Operations, which is also very secretive. I still don't know. I know everybody in VRE service that matters, right? I don't know, because they've been withholding that information for a long time, who is responsible for veteran readiness and employment within the Office of Field Operations. Now, the Office of Field Operations is really where the secret brain is of the VA in each regional office, and that's the group that is responsible for regional office production back to central office. So it's the Office of Field Operations. And there are individuals there that are overseeing the Veteran Readiness and Employment Program. They would rather keep their identities completely secret, as if they're the Great Oz, the Great Oz above us. I don't know. I don't know why, but that's what they do, and they want to be secret. It is what it is. So all we can do is really kind of call them on the carpet about it. I can see I'm getting tired here. My right eye seems to be drooping a little bit, so you can tell I've had a long day. But anywho, so chain of command should not be secret. Now, another person commented too that they had a lot of belief in the chain of command when in the military, and a lot of veterans are encouraged to follow the chain of command rather than jump the chain of command within VA. Now, one of our group members commented that the chain of command is not valuable or reliable within VA, and instead appears to be more of kind of a CYA function. So cover your behind, right? That's not CYB. No, anyway, you know what I mean. So not necessarily there to help in the way that a lot of veterans hope or believe. And so I thought that was an interesting piece of feedback and probably true. I've seen more of that than I care to admit within VA when it comes to problems a veteran's voice and articulate. And the agency just, in my opinion, does not do a great job of helping or reinforcing. So just, food for thought. And then somebody is commenting in here that, so one veteran's writing in, our VR&E phones in Houston don't even work. Okay, great. That's awesome. And then what else? So if you do have questions while we're doing this Q&A, please, I ask that you ask them in the comment section, and I'll provide responses to the best of my ability. And otherwise, I'll just do the best I can to respond. So, we will see. Hopefully, let's see here. Is there, okay. So any other, no, so nothing else. Okay. So again, ask questions if you got them, and then I'll do my best to get around to those after I'm done with this list. Number 4 on the list was a deadline. This kind of goes back to the step-by-step process in a way, but it's a little bit more nuanced in the sense that the veteran is saying, hey, I want an important to-do list. So we want deadlines. We want an important to-do list. Now, a veteran is supposed to be getting a next steps actual list, and I can't remember. I think it's like an 8606 or something like that. It will say what the veteran is supposed to do, and they sign it at the end of the first or second appointment. And then it should be a step list, but it's there could be a better way of doing it than what VRE does now. So just kind of food for thought. Then let's see here. So that is, basically an important to-do list, checklist. Now there are things like that exist, but there could be some work on it. So just something to think about. Now the last is lack of communication. And I took this to mean like how to handle it. So how do we handle when a VRC ghosts you? Okay. And so that is a situation where a counselor tries to reach, or a veteran tries to reach out, counselor does not respond. They don't respond multiple times, over and over again. So I guess the feedback here is it is kind of a secret in a way. How do you handle that? How do you handle this ghosting, lack of communication thing? Or should a counselor instead just say, look, I'm really busy. It may take me about 10 days to get back to you whenever you email me. If it's an emergency, do this. But otherwise, I'll do my best to respond, but I may not. So in other words, is it better for the VRC to be more transparent? Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Here, somebody wrote, I appreciate this. Where is it at here? So whoever this is, appreciate it. That's nice of you. Appreciate the kind words. So, yeah, lack of communication, how to handle it. So I would say in this component, how do we do it? Yeah, just having like kind of a feedback from the field to veterans so they better know and understand and appreciate kind of the delay factor, which I talked about a lot before. And want to, kind of point out that before that we talked a little bit about that for veterans. I think it was last week. And so if you want to go back to that, I talk about the ghosting issue and how to address it. But so I'm not going to get into that here, but there are strategies to use, and it would be useful if VA would explain those to the veteran, such as how to, again, these are linked up a bit, the chain of command. Like, what is the chain of command? Question, don't know. How do you find out the chain of command if they won't tell you? Well, then you try to get to that. You know what I mean? So there's all these different steps. Now, I'm going to switch gears having said this because I'm getting hungry, and I came on a lot later than I meant to today, but I had some calls to take. And so let's see here. Somebody wrote in, I was in Voc Rehab big time, fully enrolled grad school, the Voc Rehab social worker, so I'm assuming vocational rehabilitation counselor is what they mean, full of nonsense, pulled plug on my grad school. This nearly resulted in homeless status. So I'm sorry to hear that. And you're not alone. It happens to a lot of veterans. I hope you didn't give up. And if you did give up, I'm sorry. You may want to, again, reach out to us. That's what we do. So if you run into a snag like that, feel free to reach out because that's unexcusable. We've had unfortunately, some veterans who end up, getting really nailed by this program. And, I've seen some cases where they get divorced part of the way through it, because obviously finances are tough. And if you're in the program and trying to get your education sorted out and then they pull the plug on you, boom, you're going to have some problems. So it's sad. That's just a reality. And let's see here. So somebody wrote in, if VRC is doing, okay, but your eligibility is expired. So the answer here to this question is it depends. As long as you don't get kicked out of the program and then try to reapply, and then you may run into some challenges with this about the extension and whatnot. So retroactive induction is supposed to be there to get you into a program when you were wrongly denied or when you otherwise should have been entitled but weren't. And then they can peel back and give you, like, replenish your GI bill and cover, cost of tuition, stuff like that. So, yeah, so I just had a conversation with somebody about this, about negligent. Yeah, I mean, it happens a lot. I mean, we have instances where these VR counselors give knowingly false information, like false. Like there's no chance they could believe that what they're saying is true. They say it anyway. And veterans frequently just believe what they're saying and go away. Obviously not the people that reach out to me because then we we get in there and try to get justice, but a lot of veterans just go away and it's just, it's just tragic, but that's the reality. So we just don't know what really the program should be doing if it were functioning optimally. I mean, who knows? And sky's the limit kind of. So I don't know exactly. You won't get in. I'm not sure what this is about. So anyway, yeah, if people on here have questions, feel free to reach out in the group. We're coming up on a half hour. So what I'm going to do here, I see there's about, a few people on still. And so if you have any questions, know that there's a little bit of a delay. But I'm seeing it. I'm not sure what all this. Yeah. So I just would say, yeah, if you have a question, let us know. My contact information is in the bottom of this. So let's see here. Okay. So somebody has an actual question. Hey, Bamboo Pando file. Okay. Anyway, is it possible for one's post 9/11 GI Bill delimiting date to be extended due to the pandemic, even if they weren't enrolled in class but planned on? I mean, okay, it'd be great to have VR&E plus GI Bill. So, I mean, I guess maybe, but probably in most instances, no. I mean, usually the GI Bill is extended mainly because of a medical inability to go to school and other things. So getting that extension is not easy to do, just FYI. And then the Forever GI Bill, of course, doesn't have that issue. But if you don't qualify for Forever GI Bill, of course, then you're kind of going to run into some problems. But let's see here. So somebody writes in. Carlos wrote in. If my GI Bill expired in September and used 26 months, does that mean I could potentially use 22 months of VR&E? Okay, good question. And so I would hope that you got into VR&E before your GI Bill expired. If not, you're kind of stuck with the lower amount, which is really kind of sad. Or if you got denied, maybe you can appeal in time and try to get that reversed and then maybe get your GI Bill replenished. And then, some stuff like that. So having said that, let's see, potentially use 22. So without regard to your GI Bill, you can use VR&E and use it as long as is needed, so long as they approve it. So even if you go to use 36 months of your GI Bill and still get 48 months of entitlement to VR&E, if it's justified a certain way, So you're always going to have a cap of 48 months of any combination of education benefits, usually. But that limit can be raised for all veterans with a serious employment handicap where it's necessary to get the additional training or where your plan requires it, right? So the program has just got so much flexibility to it. It's just the problem you run into is a lot of counselors either don't know, they don't understand how veterans operate, they don't know enough about VA, or they're ambivalent, or they don't like veterans, which that happens too. So just, food for thought. I know that there's, probably some folks out there that have a hard time believing that, there are VA employees that don't like veterans, but it's true. Or at least they don't like veterans getting the benefits that, we should be entitled to. So food for thought. But anyway, well, I hope that y'all have a really great weekend. I'm going to wrap it up because I'm getting hungry and I have some other things I got to do yet tonight. So I hope this is helpful. Again, the whole point here was to talk about 5 secret things that veterans wish they knew up front. The first was the credentials of the veteran readiness counselor, or the veteran vocational rehabilitation counselor, and years of service, if they were in the military, basically is what they're referring to. Second is exact step-by-step process of the program. That'd be great. Third was the chain of command and how to resolve issues. Fourth was a deadline and important to-do items. And the fifth was how to handle lack of communication. So I hope that those things help. I'm praying for everybody in this group, and I personally need to be better, praying for our federal officials and being more mindful of kind of the spiritual challenges that people run into when in service to others, especially at the VA. I mean, some of us as veterans kind of forget that that's a hard job working at VA. I'm not a VA apologist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that the work there is hard. There are good people. We need to pray for them. We also need to pray for the ones that are not good people or that are not working hard, that they may be inspired to do good work later, right? Because everybody can have a heart change, and that's, I think, what we really need to focus on is being mindful of that and prayerful for our leaders, for those that don't agree with us. It's okay. It used to be okay in our country to not agree. And that was, even what made America great. And now we're in a little different type of country where the right and the left are polarized, and we're kind of in this society that is, right versus left or uniparty, depending on your view, rather than having a society that can have a lot of divergent views and everyone can figure out how to get along because we're trying to be respectful and mindful that we're all humans and we're all breathing, whether you're the president or whether you're a guy having a podcast on a Friday night or somebody trying to get benefits. We're all humans, and we're all trying to just make it through the day and until tomorrow. So I hope that this feedback here in our group helps. If you're running into problems with the VA, with a bad decision, my law firm is Kraus Law. You can reach out. I'm VA accredited. We represent veterans across the nation. You could reach out and ask for a free consult with a denial. Happy to take, we'll look at it and see what if we can help. And, it doesn't hurt, and there's no cost to reach out, right? The worst that can happen is somebody will say, well, we can't help. I'm sorry, and best case scenario, maybe we can't help, or maybe the consult, you walk out of the consult with a belief that, you can handle it yourself. Awesome. There's a lot of different things that can happen. Our group is great. There's a lot of veterans in the group that will give feedback based on their own experience that you can use to, come up with a plan of attack for your own life and hopefully not run into problems. So there's a lot of solutions out there, and I really hope that that the information that we're talking about here is useful and helpful. So until next time, God bless. We'll be praying. I'll do it really quick. Dear Lord, thank you so much for everyone on this call, and ask that you help everyone's eyes get opened, help us to reach our goals, help us to become leaders in society at a greater rate than we already are as veterans and as people who seek the truth. And I ask, Lord, that you expand transparency within the Department of Veterans Affairs and within our federal government by and large, and especially the intelligence apparatus. Also pray for accountability in our federal government, including the intelligence community, including VA, including everywhere else. And may we get to the right outcome, and ultimately your will be done. In the Lord Jesus Christ's name, amen. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. And otherwise, we will tune in next week. And, I hope to do more of these. If you have feedback about what you would like me to talk about, I am happy to, entertain different ideas. We had 2 different groups of veterans reach out to me today. Excuse me, I think my allergies are starting to kick me. Wanting to do something more with VR&E in particular, but happy to entertain ideas. I can't say that I'll have a silver bullet for everybody, but, happy to reach out. I'll do my best to give feedback where able. And otherwise, we'll hope that y'all have a great weekend and take care. All right. God bless.